Hello and welcome. My name is Errity Green and this is Wise Women Oracle and Tarot. And today I am bringing you a pick a card reading on the fun you're not having, or what you're missing out on, or the fun that's available to you now. So I wanted to bring you a fun and enjoyable reading. A lot of times these can be deep and all about self-discovery and soul searching, and we can get pretty deep with shadow work and healing, and I wanted to bring you something lighthearted and fun, the fun you're not having, the fun that's right here for you, right underneath your nose. So I encourage you to stick around and check out this reading. If you find that you enjoy it, press like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. If you want to get to know more about me and my projects, what I have going on with the Leadership Mastery Academy, check out those details below. We do have programs enrolling now. And without further delay, I will place a picture up of your 3 card piles to choose from today. So card pile 1, the fun you're not having. So there's an opportunity for rising above here. We have 2 different cards. One says rise above, one says the observer. That tells me that perhaps you're in a place of deep melancholy or self-inquiry. Perhaps could be a dark night of the soul. It doesn't feel like that deep, that heavy, although it could be. But a time of even deep transmutation, deep healing. But in one way or another, you have an opportunity here to see it from more of an observer perspective. So instead of taking it personally or taking it to heart or really sort of losing yourself to this identity or to this way of life or to this mindset, you can recognize it just a part of your experience. That it's not the totality of you. It's not the whole of you. It's not the whole of your life. It's not everything that you are, everything that you can be. There's potential beyond it. And so the fun that you're not having is making it a little bit more lighthearted or lighter, or keeping the journey lighter for you, right? There's never this message or implication here, certainly not with me or on this channel, of rushing through your healing, forcing something, bypassing, spiritually bypassing, not be in touch with your emotions. This is actually more intimacy with your emotions. When you can see that the emotions are what they are, when you're able to recognize them or see them as they are, you're actually more intimate with them because you're not becoming them, right? So there's a total difference between, say, recognizing you're angry and having an angry response versus being angry. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it requires emotional intimacy to recognize that I am not my anger. I am having an angry experience, or I feel the sensation of anger, or even breaking it down further, I'm feeling heat in my chest and constriction in my belly and a lot of energy in my throat. That's different. That's a deeper intimacy and a getting to know and a relationship with your emotions than just, the Hulk, where you're just going around pounding things for no reason. Now, I'm not saying that you are an angry person. I'm not even actually getting that energy. Doesn't mean that it's not beyond you. Or that you're beyond it, or that it's not a part of your experience. But I'm just giving you an example as to, we're not talking about bypassing here. We're actually talking about being more in tune, more in touch, well enough to know that, oh, okay, I'm having this experience right now. This is what's happening in my body. This is what's playing out right now. I can track this. I can stay with it, but it's not me. It's not who I am. It's not fundamentally who I am or what my life is going to be forever, right? This isn't a permanent state of mind or state of being, which when we don't have that intimacy with ourselves, with our emotions, with our sensations and experiences, we can come to believe that it is the truth. We can come to believe that this is just the way it is, and this is the way things are. We become bitter, we become jaded, we become guarded. So there's an opportunity for you to be a little bit more lighthearted, to disidentify with whatever challenges or experiences, hardship or anguish that you're moving through, and be able to observe it. So you're coming from the place of an observer who is allowing and still feeling and being with and experiencing, but isn't so much in it that you can't even see that, right? Where you're actually not intimate with your emotions or your experience. Yeah, so you've been through a challenging time, a loss. So there has been a loss for you. So far, it hasn't been detailed what that is, but I'm feeling like a change in life, maybe a change in relationships, Usually I can feel it if it's more relationship or workplace oriented. This feels like a fundamental life shift, life change, life direction where a lot of things shifted, maybe a lot of moving parts. This could be something as big as sort of moving across country, because it feels like a wide and broad loss. Like it doesn't feel like just one person or one thing. It just feels like a broad kind of overall in your life kind of thing. So it could be deep dissatisfaction too. It doesn't have to just be a loss, although it feels like a loss. So this could also be a loss of identity, something that's broad and universal, right? Meaning it's not just a relationship or just a workplace or just a career. It's like who you are, who you were. This could be the shift of an identity, which could have been precipitated by the loss of a relationship, a workplace, a person. So you've been going through this deep loss, this deep healing period. I feel like you're developing more intimacy, connection with yourself, your sensations, your body. I feel like the fun that you're missing out on, or the fun that you're not having right now, is connected to your passions, your drive, your determination, your exuberance. Like, I feel like in your deep depression or grieving or anguish or loss, you've sort of become depressed or numb, sort of like the Eeyore, the cold gray cloud that hovers above. And you might be in that position where you carry so much of that energy or that heavy energy that you haven't been able to feel beyond it. And if you do, it's almost like you don't feel joy, you don't feel bliss, you don't feel light, you don't feel joyful. If you do feel it all, you feel numb, depressed, right? It's like you just feel the baggage no matter what you do, where you go, so on and so forth. You're just carrying that heavy weight. But there is an opportunity here to find passion again, even if it's the littlest or simplest of things. What sparks your curiosity? What sparks your joy? What sparks your interest? What are the simple daily pleasures that bring some kind of felt sense experience to your world, to your life? We're specifically looking for felt sense here, reconnecting to the body, finding safety if you have to, if you must, being honest with yourself. If you're not ready, if you can't face it, if getting into your body or coming back to yourself or any of this stuff causes additional shock or trauma, get that support, get that help, get the therapist, get the mentor, get the partner, somebody who can support you on this journey. I like to share that because some of us can go willy-nilly jumping into things that we aren't ready for or fully equipped or resourced for, and it can become more challenging than it was in the first place. So do get the support if you need it, but ultimately it's getting curious and felt sense experience. So ways to get human touch, are those kind of human touch circles or cuddle parties, or depending on where you live in the world, are those massages, professional massages, friends that can just touch you, lying on the grass, hands in the dirt, feet in the ground, in the water, in the bathtub, in the ocean, especially out in nature. I'm very much feeling you out in nature. I'm feeling the breeze in your hair. I'm feeling the rain on your back. It's like really finding your senses again in safe places, finding that feeling, that felt sense of life, how life is teeming with life. But when we have a lot of baggage and stuff and just burdens and things we've carried for a while, things can go numb, things can get depressed, we can go into hypoarousal, and now we're out of our bodies, we can't feel anything, and we don't even know anymore. Now it's hard to find our way back. So finding this passion again, it's going to start with simple things. It's going to start with re-enlivening and reconnecting with the body. It's going to start with earth. It's going to start with nature. It's going to start with touch and felt sense experiences in safe places. This is going to help you nurture and kindle that flame so that ultimately it can become a little bit of a larger fire and a little bit of a larger fire and a little bit of a larger fire, that eventually you find that your solar plexus is back, your personal power is back on board, anchored in, and you're ready to rock and roll. It might take you some time, and that's okay. Part of this journey is reconnecting and sort of rekindling this part of yourself, to your soul, to what your soul wants for you, where your soul wants you to go, what your soul has always had in store for you. And it can feel very sort of, what's the word? I cannot think of it. Confusing, but that's not it. It can feel very sort of bewildering. That's not the word, but we'll use it to like feel like you're not yourself and you don't know how to get there, you don't know how to get back, you don't even know how to feel, right? We're starting with these simple things, and I think you might just yearn for passion too. You might wonder where your wanderlust has gone. You might wonder where your passion for life has gone, where your vitality, your energy, your life force, your zest, your enthusiasm, your optimism. Know that it was this anguish, this experience, this loss that led to you sort of carrying this burden. Please know you can release that burden at any time. Now, I will say, it will go on its own, in its own time, on its own accord. You don't have to push it, force it, make it go away, make it leave. In these situations, oftentimes we're learning something. We're learning something about ourselves and the baggage that we carry, the burdens that we carry, the emotional weight that we carry. There are gems in there, gold mines in there. They're not all just to be severed and eliminated. It's not about trying to necessarily get rid of it. Although at the same time, we can carry weight much longer than it needs to go on. And sometimes there is a cognitive element and a choice. And oftentimes this is a spiritual one too, an energetic one, that at just the right time, at just the right place, and sometimes with just the right person, the weight simply disappears. With that said, that passion, that zest for life, that vitality is within you. It's going to come back. It's going to come back as you support and nurture also your personal power and reconnect with your body and your senses and your felt sense experience and all the ways that we shared. And I feel like it was just that deep, heavy weight. There might be some grieving that needs to happen, creating a space for that. If you don't know how to do that or where to start writing letters to yourself. Again, ensure safety, ensure the support if you need it. But start writing letters to yourself, the parts of you or you who went through this, the younger you who went through that experience. There might be movies or things like that to help tap into that. Now, it's one thing to stay at surface level and just kind of ride the waves. It's another thing to really invite felt sense experiencing where you're actually able to sort of excavate everything that's sitting within. So my point there being, we don't just go poking a bear so that we can kind of skate on top and have a catharsis that was just more emotional drama and more dense energy and doesn't actually do anything for you. That's different from, say, actually diving into the depths and excavating what is there, what needs to be looked at, what wants to be discovered, uncovered, met, acknowledged, reconciled with, and so on and so forth. You might want a mentor, but you don't need it. If you feel like you don't need it, you feel like you can do the work, if you feel like you are safe, that's fine. I do a lot of work on my own, and I do a lot of work with mentors. Yeah, oh my goodness, the fun that you could be having, okay? This is about this. So this transformation, you do end up, so it's being more of a powerful creator in your life. It's stepping into more of your personal power. It's recognizing that, yes, you are in charge. As deep and as dark and as dense as this was, you still are in charge. You know, you can feel really this big, right? And then something really deep, intense, and trying happens. Then you identify with this much smaller part of you that's scared, that feels limited, that feels afraid, that is angry, that is hurt, devastated, upset, right? And you identify that, and then you're seeing the world through that limited identity, through that limited awareness, when in truth you actually are this. But in that experience, you sort of dwindle down. My point being, though, is ultimately you are bigger than just that smaller identity. And as you begin to sort of come out, like the groundhog who finds his way out after a while, after reassurance and support and realizing he's safe and being reminded that he's safe, he sort of makes his way out and he's available to the world again, you know, to the sun, to nature, to earth, to all the things that basically the play field, you know, the earth is. Now the groundhog is available to that where he once wasn't. So you are a creator. You do have a choice in your life. You can create change. You can live, love, enjoy life again. You will find the zest, the vitality. I feel like that's going to be connected to your passion again. It's also going to be connected to your personal power. So the more that you, again, what are your steps to find this fun? The fun that is available to you now, or the fun that you could be having, is what are your steps? One is disidentifying with the smaller self, the pain, the challenge, the hardship, recognizing this is a part of you, letting yourself feel it. It's a part of you. We talked about how you're going to do that, but it's not ultimately you. So the more that you're able to sort of find yourself out of it, still allow yourself to be in it. And if you have to go back and forth, that's usually how it works. We're in it and then we're stepping outside of it. We're in it and then we're stepping outside of it. And it's just a quote unquote dance. Don't love using that kind of trendy term, but it's basically finding perspective. And you might find that you're right back in here again, but then you find perspective. Mindfulness, meditation, moving meditation especially can be helpful for this stage. A support person is especially helpful for this stage. find your perspective, reorient yourself. Okay, so you're able to come out of that. You might get sucked right back in, but then you reorient, right? Secondarily, starting to connect with those little simple pleasures, earthly pleasures, reconnecting with your body in safe places. Nature is a start. If nothing else, if nowhere else, if no human hands, if no relations at all, go outside, sunshine, wind, rain, dirt, water, whatever you need to do to sort of reconnect with your body in safe ways and safe places, inviting more sacred pleasure into your life. Last but not least, the fun that you could be having is about recognizing you are the creator. You do have the ability and the power to create change, to make change, to feel again, to feel alive again. You are going to find this confidence again. This is a part of your path. Transformation is inevitable. You do come out on the other side. And that's what's underway currently. And if you're interested or curious about accelerating the process, not that we ever have to force, rush, push, repress, or whatever, but sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a path versus a random wandering. This is your path. The fun that you could be having is feeling more confident, feeling more certain, feeling more on top of the world, feeling more refreshed and alive and full of zest and vitality and energy and life force and passion and lust, thirst for life. This is what's available to you now, card pile 1. All right, card pile 1, if this lands, resonates for you, like, subscribe, press the bell icon. Let me know that you were here. Share your story in the comments. Do check out the Leadership Mastery Academy below. We will have a calendar of events coming up shortly and other ways to stay in touch and stay connected. And for now, I will say thank you and farewell. See you next time, card pile 1. All right, card pile 2, the fun that you could be having. Okay, the fun that you're not having, the fun that's available to you now. Okay, I didn't make this up. It's right here in black and white. Well, I mean, not quite black and white, blue and gold and black, but love, 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 baby. Both sides of these. And I'll talk about how it's showing up for me, what I'm feeling more intuitively. But if it's rare, it's not extremely rare or like uniquely rare, but like, or especially rare, but it's rare-ish to get 2 cards that are the exact same card from different decks side by side. So it's definitely a redundant but necessary affirmative message about love. So it's saying there's more love available for you here than you think. You might think that you don't have love available. You might think that you're alone, that you're isolated, that no one loves you, or there's not a love in your life. There aren't a lot of loving, supportive, warm relationships in your life. You might think there's not a lot of love on this healing journey or personal empowerment path or current experience or season of life that you're in, or maybe long-standing. I feel like you might have some belief or at least an attachment to an observation in your reality that there's a lack of love somewhere in your life. There's love waning somewhere. There's love that simply isn't there, right? I feel like in one way or another, you think there's less love than there really is. And you're being told, no, there's love here. There is love here for you. And right when I opened, I felt a couple different things. One is there's way more love in this healing process than you at this time recognize or have made contact with. There's so much more love available than you've allowed for yourself. It could be because of your own self-judgment or inner critic, but I also feel like to a degree, you're simply unaware of it and just not palpably tuning in. Maybe don't even have the awareness that it's there, but there's so much love around you during this healing journey, during this growth journey for you. It was never too far away from you. It was never inaccessible for you. It was always right here underneath your nose and even within and all around you. It was never something that was being held from you. Now, you might be someone again who has felt like that's been taken from you or wasn't given to you or wasn't there or wasn't possible to feel. Remember I said I opened with feeling a couple of different things. The second one is there's a lot of love in your life, in your relationships, a lot more love than you're able to see or perceive before I just said this, right? The whole point is that you can now have the eyes to see, the perspective to sense and experience, and the perception to be able to receive the love that is here. There is love available for you. Will you open your heart to experience it? I do feel there is some resistance there. We'll see if more comes through on that. But more than that, it feels like the love is right here. What will you do with it? Like if there's an invitation here to experience more love. Now, again, we talked about self-judgment, inner critic. You could also be someone who's relatively focused, keeps yourself busy, relatively task-oriented. There's things that you do and things that you need to get to and get through and get done. So I feel like you might be someone, if you're not someone who's self-critical or in a state of judgment oftentimes, or believing in your own isolation or lack of your lovability, you might be someone who is on the go or on the run and always doing things. And in that space, it can be more difficult to contact the love that's there. So you might have to create space in your life for that to happen. You know, where and how do you like to spend really good quality time with yourself? It almost brings me a little bit of emotion. Where and how do you like to experience quality time with your loved ones, with your family, with your friends? Ask yourself that question. Where and when and with whom do you feel like you experience quality time? And not only with others, but with yourself, because what you want to do is make sure you're scheduling in time for this, like putting it in your daily routine or your weekly schedule or calendar where you have quality time with yourself, right? This doesn't have to be the status quo stuff that everyone talks about. Meditation, it can be. Ecstatic dance, it can be. Massage, it can be. It doesn't have to be. How do you feel like you have quality time with yourself? Is it with a bath? Is it cuddling up with a novel? Is it snuggling up with Outlander and a cup of tea? Is it hot chocolate? Is it outside with the horses? Is it at the beach with your toes in the sand? Is it around the campfire? Okay? What is quality time for you on your own? And what is quality time with you and others? You know, you might not feel like it's quality time when you're with other people and everyone's sitting on their phone at the dinner table. Okay, so what is quality time? Is it taking a walk in the park? Is it going to the festival on the beach? Is it going to the dog park, right? Going for ice cream on a Sunday, church on a Sunday, whatever your flavor, form, or texture. But what brings you into that state of being of quality time with yourself, with others? I think it's going to support you to contact the love that's already in your life, in your world, and in your field that you haven't been accessing perhaps as much as you could have been. So it was supporting and affirming the belief that you're alone, that you're unloved, that there's no love here, there's no one who loves you, there's no warmth, there's no loving kindness, there's no tenderness. You know, ironically, but not so ironically, those of us who can go through those phases, whether long-term, you know, the whole life, or short-term, just a season, it's like when we're not offering love to ourselves too, right? We might have all these ideas or conceptions about the love that we're not getting or receiving, the love that's not here. And yet, have we spent quality time with ourselves? Have we spent quality time with our loved ones? If the answer is no, we haven't even done the work of it yet. We haven't even started, because there's so much love here. I also feel like there's so much love in your healing journey. And a lot of the path of your healing journey was calling in, bringing in more of this love. So if you're curious about when's the thing going to happen, or when's the outcome going to happen, or when is this result going to be achieved, or whatever outcome or goal or aspiration, ambition you've had for yourself, know that for you, card pile 2, it will be attached to love, because ultimately you were seeking fulfillment in this way all along. Right? You were ultimately seeking emotional fulfillment of some kind, more love, more quality time in your life. You went seeking for it maybe in different ways, or in the external world, in all these ways you thought you would get it, maybe came out empty-handed, or it felt empty. And ultimately, it was always about you finding it in these ways. Like, it was about you coming into more quality time with yourself, quality time with life itself, and quality time with others. Quality time with life itself is really important for you, your card pile 2. You might be a relatively spiritual path. Whether or not you recognize that, know that yet, consider yourself that, would describe or define yourself in that way, doesn't matter. But you're someone who needs quality time with life itself too. You know, is that a quiet walk in nature? Is that yoga? Is that meditation? Is that time in the garden? Again, asking yourself, when do you feel like it's quality time with life itself? I feel like God, your higher power, source, creator, whatever word or term you have for it, wants to make contact with you, wants to speak to you, wants to offer you the love you've been begging for, pleading for, praying for, wondering where it's at, and it was right here all along. I think some of you might have a challenging relationship with God. Not all of you, some of you. And as a result of an experience or series of experiences where you felt like you had to turn away because maybe there was a loss of hope, loss of faith, loss of trust. And so now you have turned your back to a little bit to God, or turned your back from God, great spirit, cosmos, universe, higher power, source, creator. In one way or another, you maybe have turned your back. If you haven't looked at this, recognized this, explored this yet, I encourage you, I implore you to do so, because there's not a block there. It's a choice. It's like it's right here and you're just turning this way because you're hurt. I can actually feel it for you, card pile 2. You're hurt and you felt betrayed or abandoned or neglected or left out in the cold or left out to dry, as they say. And it's hard for you to look at it because it pains you. It hurts. It hurts to look at it. It's like touching a stove. For you to look at that and recognize that you feel abandoned or betrayed or neglected by God, by life itself, by love itself, it's so incredibly painful that you just avoid it. And the thing is, I don't feel like an active repression, suppression, or denial. I just feel like it's there and you simply turn the other way. And it's just a simple way of how you have oriented your life to turn away from it because you were so upset, so distraught, so shocked at the loss or whatever it is that has occurred to you in the past. There was some kind of betrayal, abandonment, neglect, something. I roll my eyes because I'm just trying to get the word. I'm like, what is it? But for, it might look different for each of you, but you guys know what I'm saying. When I'm saying you feel betrayed. So as soon as I violated something like that, you're going to know what I'm talking about. You know when you turn the other direction. All right? That love wants to return to you. It's almost like a forgiveness of life itself, of God, whatever that means to you, because for some of you, that might sound very bizarre. Forgive God? What does that even mean? But there is a forgiveness here with life itself, which there's a whole other tangent we could get on about whether we are ultimately creating our lives or if it's something else or a co-creation of sorts. Ultimately, right, it's all coming from the same source. With that said, we're not going to go down that road, so no need to rationalize this, intellectualize this. I feel like in order for you to turn toward life itself again and create the space in your world life being field to have this love, the love that's already here for you, you're going to have to turn toward that and reconcile. Look at it again. You're not going to actually touch the hot stove, but emotionally, psychologically, you're going to have to turn to that hot stove and look at it directly. You're going to be looking face to face with your biggest wound. I haven't cried in a reading for so long for those of you guys who follow this channel. And it's okay to cry. I want to cry. I want you to feel comfortable crying. I want to feel comfortable crying. I'm learning to feel more comfortable crying with other people. Let's cry together. Let's practice crying together and being vulnerable together. But you're basically going to be looking at the biggest wound in its face. I feel like maybe you've done a lot of the work in pieces and parts and parcels, and the ultimate wound was with God or life itself. And what do you know? This reading was actually about having fun. But hey, this is how we get to fun, right? Facing everything in the way of fun. That's how we get to fun. It's facing everything in the way of fun. Okay? And so it's looking God in the eye, and I think when you do that, the grief will be clear and the grief will be palpable, and whatever is there, it doesn't have to be grief, anguish, anger, rage, whatever it is, it wants to come up and out to be freed. It's having that reconciliation with God, making peace with God. This is so, if you've seen the movie Forrest Gump, I was like, I can't even go there because Forrest Gump, I just sobbed the whole time, and I watch it with my son, and he's always like, oh, Mom, But if you haven't seen Forrest Gump, if that's not your generation, I encourage you to watch it. It is a classic. It's a well-known movie for its time. If you're more my generation, then you know. It's like that's almost as well-known as Jurassic Park and Independence Day. For those who are younger than me, I'm giving you guys a list of the movies you want to see from this generation. But in Forrest Gump, there is a character called Lieutenant Dan, and he faces a severe injury in war. And when he comes out of war, he is bitter, he is resentful, he is angry. And over time and many years and many experiences, he ultimately makes peace with God. I'm not going to tell you the details, the story, what that looks like, because you might not have seen it. But that's what it reminds me of, is where you ultimately make that peace. And that's what wants to happen. And you guys, it's crazy because we've gotten through almost 15 minutes of a reading here, and I haven't even touched on your other cards. I'm going to jump into those here. I want to make sure we get to them, but I think it's so important and paramount. And I'm telling you, paramount, how important, significant, necessary it is. And not in a warning way or something terrible will happen. You'll manifest something crazy. That's not even something I subscribe to. But I mean, paramount it is for you as a soul who is lovable and deserves to be loved to experience the love that it's here. It's like, it's right here. It's right at your door, right? It's all you have to do is look, because you've been looking this way because of that betrayal or that abandonment or that neglect, where you feel like you can't trust, you can't have hope, you can't have faith anymore. And that's what needs to be looked at. That's what needs to be explored, because ultimately you'll be able to walk through that door again, and you'll be able to have that quality time again with life itself, where that fulfills you. Okay, so now let's dive in a little bit more. I feel like I can't even get anywhere else. Like, that is the reading, but I want to touch on these other cards. It's reflecting on all the things that are good in your life and great in your life, how far you've come, all of your achievements, all of your mastery, all of your growth, really taking a good, hard, close, real, truth, honest, authentic look at yourself. And if you need someone to walk through this with you, it could be important that you do that, where you can ask a friend, a mentor, or a peer, or a colleague, or something like that who you feel comfortable with, and say, I'd really like to explore seeing the good things in my life, and I want some perspective, and so I'd like you to support me with that. See if they're open to it. See if they're available to it, because this is about getting to know yourself in all honesty, not with the lens and the filter of looking at the bad and the negative. Again, if you are someone who tends towards self-criticism or self-judgment, but instead you're looking at all the great things, all the good things, all the wonderful things, all the masterful things, all the beautiful things, as well as all the things you've accomplished, all the things that you've achieved. Again, how far you've come, really taking a good look at those things and living in that day after day, moment after moment. The fun that you could be having is being like 100% in it and involved and invested and intimate with your achievements, with your accomplishments, with all the good and wonderful, beautiful, blissful things in your life. Let's see what else is here. The fun you could be having. So the fun you could be having, the final card here, I know we're already over than the previous reading, but I do want to share these final cards, is the fun you could be having. I feel like you maybe lack a sense of self-trust too anymore, or maybe a self-discipline or something like that, where maybe you were someone in the past, or maybe you weren't ever before, someone who could say what they mean and mean what they say, or follow through with what they say. You know, maybe you feel like you're unable to hold commitments to yourself anymore. I do feel like this is a reflection of your lack of trust and faith and belief in God, Great Spirit, Cosmos, Higher Power, Universe. I think it's directly related. With that said, I feel like you're going to find so much power and so much peace and so much contentment and so much confidence and so much belief when you can start acting in ways, making choices in ways, decisions in ways that honor your true sovereignty. Meaning, if there are things in your life that aren't ultimately true for you, or that quote unquote aren't serving you anymore, that don't feel good, that aren't self-honoring, you know, things like, could be scrolling on social media, could be being addicted to social media, it could be toxic relationships, toxic romantic relationships. It could be any form or flavor. It feels like kind of like of soft addictions. It's like the devil card in the tarot, where you're going to find your attachments there. You're going to find your addictions there. You're going to find your temptations there. I feel like in some ways, with the fun that you could be having, I feel like in some ways that devil influence, kind of devil on your shoulder, angel on your shoulder, gets in your head and kind of permeates the mindset or state of mind or your experience, or where you sort of just fall back on old habits or default to things that ultimately don't serve you, support you, aren't good for you, or don't feel good. And it's like, you're going to find so much power in not doing that, right? You're going to find the fun in choosing to be sovereign. You're going to find more power in your sovereignty than in your giving into temptation. It's okay. This is somewhat offensive. I'm like seeing how I can say it in a way that is sensitive and honoring, because I don't mean it in the way that I'm saying it. I think even me sharing it that way and prefacing it that way, there's this whole thing of nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, right? Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. I hope you can understand what that means, but it's basically saying there's no food worth being skinny because skinny feels great, okay? How I have experienced that in my life is when I am physically fit and exercising every day, I feel on top of the world. I feel like I have incredible energy, zest, life force, vitality. I feel like, again, I'm on top of the world. everything's going my way. I feel in the zone and the element. You just feel amazing, right? And so it's kind of saying like that feels better than say giving into sleeping in the morning and clicking, whatever on the alarm a million times, and then sort of lounging in bed and rolling over and maybe getting dressed, maybe getting a shower, maybe not even brushing your teeth, and then rolling out of your bed and doing the next thing and like kind of dragging yourself through the day, right? These are all kind of the devil card, right? The temptations, the attachments, the baggage, the weight, the energy that lulls you and pulls you down and sinks you, right? And so it's like the more you can actually, again, find that perspective, orient yourself into more of your wholeness, more of your personal power, meaning not letting yourself fall into that sinking mud, basically, or quicksand, because it feels like it just sucks you in. The more you can step outside of that and choose a healthful, whole, healthy, feel-good choice, like I'm going to get up and I'm going to get up on time and I'm going to do the thing that I said I was going to do. I'm going to do meditation, or I'm going to spend that quality time, right? Actually following through on what you said, doing what you say you want to do, consistently showing up in the ways you say you want to, especially in the ways that we've already talked about. That feeling of sovereignty, nothing tastes as good as sovereignty feels. That's the energy. When you start to get a calendar together or organized or follow through or actually do the meal planning or all the things that you said you wanted to do, you're going to feel so powerful and so on fire and so on top of the world that all of your addictions and attachments, all that stuff that once kind of were your life or your mainstay or your default or your whatever will mean nothing to you. Like not it, nada. Zip, zero, zilch, nothing, nada. All right? You're going to feel so good that none of that is relevant. So let's go ahead and sum up your reading. Card pile 2, yours was a little longer. That's okay. Is the fun that you could be having is finding the love, accessing the love that's already here and available for you, facing that big time wound, the big kahuna. You've sifted through the layers. Now it's time to face the big kahuna. Then using a mentor, it could be helpful, although you can do this on your own, where it's actually taking a real, true look at your life, your ambitions or your aspirations, your accomplishments, achievements, all the wonderful things you've done, how far you've come, how much you've grown, really being honest with yourself instead of self-critical and judging yourself and not seeing all the good. And last but not least, you're going to demonstrate more of your sovereignty, more of your personal power. You're going to get your ish together. You're going to organize it, delegate it, do it, schedule it, wake up on time, do the thing, whatever, consistently and well enough to where you're actually able to feel that difference, feel good on the inside, and you are going to feel on top of the world. So card pile 2, that is your reading. If this lands for you, do like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. If you want to get to know more about me or what I've got going on at the Leadership Mastery Academy, do check out those details below. We should have a calendar up in the very near future, as well as programs enrolling. And I look forward to staying connected there. So card pile 2, I want to thank you, and I will see you next time. Card pile 3, the fun that you could be having. So, or the fun that's available to you now, or the fun that you're currently missing out on, or the fun that you're not having, whatever version. So I feel like you've been through a time, an era of like cleansing and detoxing and shifting and changing and transfiguring and transmuting, and just going through a time of a lot of deep clearing, cleansing, healing. And I feel like it's been more reflective, perhaps, kind of like the Hermit and the Tarot, where you've sort of been more isolated than not. Doesn't mean like you've always been alone or had to be completely in solitude, but have spent an era or a time or a season of your life kind of doing the work, doing the inner work. It feels like detoxing and cleansing. It feels like self-care rituals and practices. To me, it feels like journaling and looking at yourself and reflecting and exploring and getting to know yourself and getting to know others and getting to know patterns and so on and so forth. A lot of reflection, a lot of introspection, a lot of inquiring, a lot of discovering, a lot of soul searching. And I feel like that's where you've been, right? And how I see it's almost like a mirror you have been here, right? And you have a mirror set up and it's looking back at you. So you've just been looking at yourself, sort of self-involved, self-focused, necessarily so, in a time in your life where you were kind of shifting, changing, moving, clearing, cleansing. And so that's where the mirror's been. But here's what's interesting, the fun that you could have, now you're turning the mirror back out here. Okay? So meaning being out in the world more, stepping out into the world more, focusing on quote unquote manifestation, i.e., doing the things, going out there and living the things, the embodiment of, right? So it's not just I dream of, it means I am doing. Or it's not just I hope to or I wish to, it's I'm doing the next best thing to that, right? Because we might not always be able to sail on a yacht around the world tomorrow, which is our big dream, but we can start by taking local classes at our yacht club, right? Whatever. I'm just making that up. I don't even know if it all goes together, but you catch my drift. It's actually living the thing, being the thing, doing the thing, okay? It's showing up for the thing. It's living the dream as opposed to just dreaming the dream. So I feel like after a long period of introspection, reflection, inner work, so on and so forth, focus on the self, now it's about going out in the world and actually experiencing it. So I feel someone, it's kind of like, right, we've talked about this before in other readings. I tend to use this metaphor, the groundhog who's in the hole, and every once in a while he comes out and kind of checks to see if everything's ready or whatever. And what it is, he comes back out in the world, right? Or a hibernating bear who spends the time hibernating in winter. And then eventually he comes out and he's out going after the honeybees again, you know, and getting its honey. I mean, that's what I know from Winnie the Pooh. What's actually happening with the grizzly bears, I don't know. But you know what I mean? Out there living, learning. It's like applying everything that you've learned, living it all, living it out loud, right? So for a long time when we do this reflection, introspection, discovery, inquiry, we might gain new insights, new wisdom, new ideas, new things might be planted. There's just this like sort of working fertile foundation, fertile ground, garden or foundation. Like the fundamental elements of us have changed, right? We've been reprogrammed or rewired, like a computer program or software program or something where there was a certain program or wiring set up. All of that's been undone and redone. So, you know, the way you show up in relationships is probably different now. You know, the way you show up with yourself is probably different now. The way you show up with your family is different, and your business and your work and your livelihood. You might even explore that. You might even ask yourself, right, the fun you could be having is exploring all the domains of your life, but really it's going to get you to a fun place. Is looking at all the areas of your life and seeing how you've changed now, how the template has changed, how the blueprint has changed, how the programming and coding and foundation and fundamentals have changed, right? And you're going to find, whoa, holy moly, holy cow, I have changed dramatically, right? You're going to find that when you look at it that closely, just briefly put it under a microscope and say, okay, how has the software here, or how has the code, how has the program changed? You're going to be like, holy cow, I am a different person. All of that work has paid off. Heck yeah, because now you're walking in the world with a different template, with a different program, with a different code. So where you were walking into the world before and experiencing certain kinds of relationships, certain kinds of opportunities, experiences, jobs, whatever. Now you're going to walk into the world with a whole new set of codes and templates and a blueprint for a totally different experience. And not only are you going to have a different experience, now it's time to put these changes to work. Meaning, again, whatever insights, wisdom, changes, or transformations you've experienced, now it's time to apply them or implement them and get feedback on them. And not meaning you're going to go get external feedback from people, but from life itself. You're going to start seeing how the results and the outcomes change based on who you are now. Things have changed. You have changed. Life has changed. Your program is different. It is not the same. You understood the assignment. You understood the assignment. And I don't, to get too much into TikTok, I'm working on it, people. I will eventually get there. I've dabbled, but you know, that song is everywhere, and you understood the assignment. Card Pile 3, good for you. All right, good for you. And so you're going out there with a new template, with new code, and you're going to find the experiences are different. You're also going to be able to experience it in real time, different results, different outcomes, but also feedback, which we don't ever take personally. Feedback is just life responding to our program and telling us what might need to be tweaked or adjusted. And I'm not implying that there's going to be more changes necessary or transformation. It's really just going to be supportive for you. And number one, experiencing different outcomes and results. But also number two, kind of showing you areas and places and ways in which you have changed, where you show up differently. So it's like the opportunity where now the world is your laboratory, or the world is your adventure, or your playground, more or less, where you get to go out and explore life with these new codes, with this new template, with this new blueprint of literally being a different person, have built from the ground up, new coding, starting at 010101, new coding from the ground up, a whole new identity, a whole new person. In fact, I feel like many of you will find your health becomes greater. Your vitality feels better. You're due for an upgrade. And again, if you haven't experienced this upgrade yet, it's because you haven't left the mirror. It's time to put that outside, for the groundhog to leave the hole, for the bear to leave the cave. Now you're going to start experiencing different results. But you have to go out there and apply what you've learned in the real world with other human beings, relationally, interactionally, conversationally. Like, go out there, apply it, experiment, and watch the magic unfold, because that's the whole point, to take now what you've learned and go out there, implement, apply it, experience it for yourself. If you want to adjust it, adjust it. But the world is your laboratory. The world is your playground. This gets to be an adventure. The fun that you could be having is using the world as an adventure, as your playground, as your experiment, as your laboratory, as you apply all the new things that you've learned, the new ways of being that you are. Now you get to go out there and experience the world differently. How fun. And it's basically saying, like, the time of introspection, it can always occur, and you can prolong it as long as you want, but it's like the work has been done, the code has been rewritten. You can move forward if you so choose. Not that reflection will always be a part of your experience, but it doesn't have to be the entree or the staple or the mainstay at this point. This is about going out there and now living it, living this new philosophy, right? The living of it, the being it, the doing it, the embodiment, the embodying it. Yeah. So all of this that you've been going through, this whole journey that you've been on of growth, of change, of transformation, cleansing, clearing out, this has all been about transmuting you up. I don't know what that means, but you know what I mean? This feels like deep at the cellular level, like literally rewriting your DNA. I don't know the energetics of this. If any of you who are YouTube viewers, or you know someone, you could send it to them, who are familiar with that and how the interplay between energy and or our thoughts and or our intentions. I am familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, but how it influences the genetic expression or genetic code. I am curious, because I know that we sort of revamp our skin cells, right, every 7 years or something like that, or it could be every 7 days for all I know. That's a big difference, I know. But I know our whole body can be like redone, relived, rebirthed within 7 years. I don't know what that looks like for skin cells. But my point is this, you've literally rewritten your DNA. Now, you might look the same, but you're a different person. And so, go out there and experience the world as this person and get to know who this is. Even because if you keep going to the old people, they're just going to keep reflecting back that old stuff. That's not who you are. They're going to keep on telling you, showing you, reflecting back at you, giving you feedback based on who you were, because they haven't let go of the construct or the image of who you were. Right? Who they think you are based on an image of you that they have, their own projection from your past. So in order for you to get an accurate portrayal, an accurate representation, an accurate understanding of who you are now, what you are now, where you are now, you want to connect with new people who are fresh, who have a clean slate with you and have no projection, no idea or image about you, no preconception or about who you are or what you do or whatever, and explore and experience the world that way. The only way you're going to experience new results is by going out into the world and creating something new based on the new code, right? Based on who you are today. If you keep on interacting and playing with old stuff, right? Old people, old relationships, old jobs, and just keep it at that, you're actually never going to be able to experience your new code in action, i.e. new results and outcomes. You now need to re-enter the world with the new code, with the new template, with the new programming, with the new foundation, so that you can experience the world, life, whatever, differently, but also secure new outcomes and results and experiences, new goals, whatever. It's like whatever you had asked for before, your old identity was too limiting for that. So that's been all rewritten. You've been built from the ground up now as like a new version of yourself. And now it's about using this larger identity that has the capacity or greater space or availability or ability or whatever to be able to accomplish, create, experience what you have asked for. So basically you requested something, you set the intention for something, you said a prayer for something, and God, earth, the divine, whatever, life itself, they delivered. They understood the assignment. Right? So now they've delivered, you've been rebuilt from the ground up, and as much as you thought it was this or that, or upsetting or difficult or painful or challenging, Maybe it was anguish. I mean, bottom of the barrel stuff. Many of you probably hit rock bottom at one time or another. You might have connected with card piles 1 or 2. I don't think so if you're on card pile 3. But if you did, you can even go back to whichever one also called to you, because it kind of talks about hitting more of those deeper parts of healing and kind of finding yourself, picking yourself off the ground to kind of get to where you're at now, where you're no longer focused on looking at self and healing. Instead, you're going out in the world to manifest using the new codes, baby. Okay? You're getting ready to experience a whole new life from the ground up, baby. And it feels different on the inside. It feels different with relationships, with workplaces, with money, with resources, with whatever you want to secure and experience and accomplish. You've like went from like a 2 to, I'm trying to even, there's no number, 10, 12, 20, 40, 60, 80, 200, 1,000. But it's like huge. I mean, that's a pretty dramatic increase. But I mean, you've upgraded the software, the system to accommodate so much more than you could have ever thought possible in your old identity. And even if you did, you set your eyes on it, all that stuff had to be obliterated and you had to be rewritten from the ground up. That's where you're at now. Yeah, this was always about you just encountering those limitations so that you could shift them and be into a place of your greater personal power, awareness, and wholeness. This isn't to trivialize or minimize our difficulties, our struggles, our hardships, our challenges as human beings, or to minimize our feelings, minimize our hurts, the traumas and tragedies of our lives. This isn't meant to minimize anything that is real and, you know, an aspect of our own very real and vulnerable humanity. All of that is always assumed here and left intact and respected and honored for what it is. With that said, your journey, card pile 3, which you're ready to hear this message, like you're available to it. So all of my sort of disclaimer there isn't necessary, but in case anybody cross watches or whatever, I always like saying this isn't about spiritual bypassing. This isn't about not honoring our feelings or being honest about where we are or when we feel tender and vulnerable, and letting ourselves feel our feelings, to be honest about where we're at and support ourselves where we're at. However, your reading is all about all of this that you've encountered, whatever it is, was always about accessing more of your limitlessness from encountering your limitations. Like this was always about finding the medicine in your shadow, like the redirection in your shadow, than it was about feeling bad about yourself. This was never meant to be something that made you downtrodden and heavy and weighted and just like where you lost yourself and all of that stuff. It was never meant to bring you there. And if it did, it did, and it was meant to, right? But it's like you weren't meant to stay there. It was never meant to be the kind of end game or end all be all. It was always for you to find the medicine in the shadow, or even the redirection, which is where I was at. Because what's interesting is I almost get this energy of when we encounter our shadow, it's not so much like people talk about finding the gem or the gold mine. And listen, your work is your work. Whatever you discover is what is the truth. I do believe that our experience is our truth. That is our truth, whether it's true for anybody else or not. There's always formulas or ways to heal or whatever out there. But what this is saying is, it's like when you encounter your shadow, it's supposed to, right, redirect you back to your power. It's supposed to support you back into a place of personal empowerment. It's supposed to bring you or redirect you back to who you are as a whole creator. It's supposed to always bring you back into a space of greater wholeness, greater potential, greater capacity. It's not meant to limit you or make you less than or make you smaller. So often when we hit the challenges in life, the challenges, the tribulations, all this stuff, we become smaller and a less version of ourselves. And we start believing in the wounding. We talk about a lot about that in card piles 1 and 2. And then we get smaller, and then our mindset changes and we become more pessimistic and we can't really see clearly. Then we're living in it. Then we're identifying as it. Then we can't see anything else but. Then we're not able to, right? And so we just get smaller and smaller, and it diminishes and diminishes and diminishes. It's like, no. It's saying that that's never what's supposed to occur. I mean, ideally, right? It does occur. It likely will occur. What we all go through, right? But we're talking about ideals here. Kind of healing is never meant to take away your power or make you less of yourself. It's always meant to bring you more power and help you gain more of yourself. Your shadows are all about reclaiming yourself, not denying it. Reclaiming yourself, not making yourself smaller. Reclaiming yourself, not making yourself less than. Reclaiming limitlessness, not owning limitation. It's like it was always about coming more into your wholeness, more into your power, more into your personal power, more into your capability, your ability, your capacity, and your potential for more, bigger, expansion. It's like it's always meant to make you go bigger. not smaller, not less than, right? We can get lost, I think, in it as humans, and we forget that, and we lose track of it, or we just can't even see it anymore. It's like we create our own personal hells, and literally we can't even see the light, even though it's right there. It's the energy of, like, right with a, what are they called? You guys are so good at helping me out, and I so appreciate it. When I'm sharing sometimes, a slingshot, I think it's a slingshot, where you have the Y-shaped kind of stick or whatever, and you pull the ball back, and the rubber that pulls all the way back like this, kind of like a rubber band, and it goes back, and then it goes, whoosh, right? So here's the thing. I'm going to give you this metaphor here so you can understand what I'm saying. Because I'm saying, like, the smallness, the limitation, the challenges, all that stuff, hardship, shadow, whatever we're going through, is never meant to make us less, make us smaller, make us more limited. It's supposed to actually catapult us, expand us. So let me show you what I mean. So if we have the slingshot, let's just say you have the ball and you just leave it right here, right? The rubber band isn't taut. You haven't pulled it back, right? You just kept it right here. What happens? You just let go, right? The ball falls to the ground. It's like, okay, I guess it found kind of some velocity, momentum, and a little bit of expansion, but not really. It just kind of fell back, or it fell down. But what if you pull it all the way back, right? To most people, right, when they're doing the inner work or the shadow work, or they've dealt with an incredible loss or an identity shift or transformation or whatever, something extremely humbling, to say the least, we tend to think that, like, that's the new reality, or that's what it is, or we identify with it, or, you know, whatever. All the things and ideas and whatever we make about it. But ultimately, no, it's supposed to be pulled all the way back, right? That part's supposed to happen. But what does it do when we let go? It catapults us. We go significantly, eons, light years, quantum leaps farther in our expansion, in our ability, in our potential, in our capacity than we ever would have not doing it at all. So it's saying all that shadow work, basically encountering all the elements of yourself that maybe you previously weren't aware of, or in facing all of your demons, or in facing all of your fears or your doubts or your worries, even living in that for a while and personifying that for a while. It was never about you becoming that and sort of succumbing to it. It was always about that from there, you were then going to reclaim your wholeness, reclaim all that you are, reclaim yourself. You were always meant to become more of yourself, not less. So card pile 3, the fun that you could be having is stepping more into manifestation and an external focus of going out in the world and living life and living well, and not focusing so much or as much on yourself and on the inner work, because right now it's time to apply the new code and experience new results and see where it takes you and what it gives you. Last but not least, this was always meant to be a deep transmutation and code changer, even DNA changer for some of you. Do let me know if you have any ideas on that or what that could look like or mean. And then last but not least, again, it was trying to tell you this was always about building you back up bigger, stronger, more powerful from the ground up. It was never about making you less than or smaller or more limited. It was always about you busting through and breaking through all previous limitation to much higher heights than you ever could have encountered before. So ultimately it served you, right? It was reclaiming your wholeness and becoming more of you, not less. And that's your next chapter, card pile 3. I do believe you are in for some serious, incredible, extraordinary changes in your life, a significant upgrade, one that you could have never imagined or maybe did, but certainly was nothing close to your previous reality. You are in and due for a serious upgrade now that you start applying the new codes to the external world. Just like a video game, you're going to be up leveling, baby. So that's the fun you're going to be having, card pile 3. Not could be, you're going to be. So if you like this reading, if it lands for you, like, subscribe, click the bell icon, share the story in the comments, share the video. If you want to get to know more about me, my work, what I do, go check out the Leadership Mastery Academy below. Got a calendar of events up and running here shortly, as well as programs enrolling, and I'd love to see you over there and stay connected. All right, card pile 3, thank you. Until next time.